good old days of like organic on LinkedIn are definitely going down. You can't fake someone that's paying you money saying good things about what that's like.
I mean, you don't need to go viral.
If Anthropic or OpenAI can ship one new feature set and take out your whole category, you're a rapper.
What happens when Ding, who's my smartest AI guy, gets a job offer that's 2 times his salary? At some point, it's like a matter of when, not if.
Do we just get access to a tool and go figure it out?
Who's going to maintain this?
Product is the outcome. What's up? What's up? Welcome to the B2B Content Show, episode 5. You're here, and we love you. Thank you for making it to the show. It's called Niche B2B Marketing Audience. Come on. That's right. That's right. Anyways, welcome to the pod. Welcome. This is Jay Claire. We got co-host Ding Zhang, and we got our friend of the EventShark, friend of the pod. We got Jay Desai, former solo marketer, go-to-market extraordinaire, former SaaS founder, basketball hooper we play ball with on the weekend.
Sniper
on the perimeter. Sniper on the perimeter. Shoots. Just get the ball with Jay on the 3-point line. We got Jay Desai in the house. Also, growth lead at
Navattic. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just got to drop that in right at the end and put it in there. Get the plug in. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited to be here. It's going to be a good podcast.
What are we going to get into on the podcast today? We're going to be talking about B2B marketing. We're going to get into AI. We got some AI nerds right here. You were just in Japan. What did that teach you about B2B marketing?
So I would say my number one takeaway from that experience is probably the service level that I got. And, I feel like in today's kind of tech world, SaaS world, and even outside of like SaaS as well, there's just very much huge focus on like, how do we integrate AI into our process? Like, how do we just automate all of these different things? And like, the goal is always like, let's generate more revenue. I feel like not everyone like talks about service as like that level of experience. And when I think about my time back in Japan, there were some places that I stayed at that were pretty expensive to stay at. But when I look back, I'm like, I don't think like, wow, that was like so expensive. Like now I'm thinking, oh, that was so worth the cost. Like I had such a good like service experience. And even when I'm like recommending these places to my friends and things like that, I'm like, honestly, even if it's like maybe slightly like above your budget that you're looking for, like I would recommend that place for you just because the service was like so great. And I feel like that's so underrated in today's game. It's like really easy for people to like spin up new products in this AI world. But everyone's thinking about like, okay, what are the new features that we can ship and stuff like that? Not everyone's like also thinking about like, what is like the service experience that we can provide, this like world-class level of service, which I think is really important because like when it's time for people to like churn or they're having a frustrating experience or things like that, those are the things that can like make or break whether or not they're going to be sticking around and willing to at least like give you a chance to correct that mistake. So that's probably like my biggest takeaway from that experience.
Yeah, I think there's a good crossover with fine dining as an example, right? The 11 Madison Park guy he wrote the
yeah.
hospitality. We talked about that before.
Yeah, I saw his Taco Pavilion. It was really good.
Yeah. So yeah, shout out to service. And I think service is a good segue. I wanted to touch on this. Service as a word has gotten very popular recently, right? Sequoia blog talking about SaaS, the evolution from software as a service to now services as a software or services as software. But I think the crux of it is we're moving from a tool era to an outcomes era, right? That's the promise of AI is no longer are you constrained to a UI, UX, and you have to be a product expert to get some kind of tangible outcome from a product. Now the promise is that the product is the outcome. Right, so people are buying like and you look at Salesforce moving to headless 360, right? It's all going to be agents and bots using AI.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you don't even really need to interact with like a user interface for some of these products. Like some of the tools that I'm using, I just have the MCP connected to Claude, and I'm not even interfacing with the actual product. I'm just asking Claude to pull some of these things and put them together, and I'm probably spending way more time with those tools in Claude than I am like in their regular interface.
We saw Adobe, they finally opened up, right, for a long time with Creative Cloud. They're like, oh, we're going to keep it closed. It's proprietary. And then what happened the other week was Adobe released all of that. Now AutoCAD, like engineering design, 3D modeling software, that has MCPs and Claude now.
That's crazy.
So nuts.
Yeah. No, that's the future for sure.
Like EventShark's a kind of a premium service, right? We we didn't maybe get to perfectly on the first cut, but it's like we're responding in Slack like right away and like giving them cuts right away and revisions and stuff. So it's like even if we like really value the premium aspect in our business and giving that elite service, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, things are gonna go wrong. Like, I mean, that's just the nature of like having a business or like operating like a startup. Things are gonna go wrong for your like customer at some point. It's like a matter of when, not if. And so like having that strong sense of service, and being like a fast communicator and stuff like that, that's what's gonna keep you honestly like in the game. Like a lot of these other companies that, maybe there's not that level of service, and when things go wrong, especially as like the product complexity rises and you're doing like more complex things with that product. And if things don't work out and you can't get in touch with someone to help maybe fix that situation fast enough, like you're going to turn and go find a product that maybe not only has the product, maybe you're willing to honestly even sacrifice a little bit on the product, but the level of service is like, you're like, I can trust these people that they're going to help me get it done.
Why do you think B2B companies struggle with service quality?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think honestly, I do feel like some of it is starting to maybe like slowly shift to that. But like if you think about like the way I think for a lot of these startups, like and we're talking about like tech specifically, we can talk about like outside tech as well. But I think for some of these companies like that have taken money from VCs and things like that, those VCs are very like growth centric. Like, okay, how much like what does your pipeline forecast look for like the next like 12, 18 months? Like, what is your growth rate that it's all about like what's coming in new, right? Like how many people like, yeah, probably like NRR and that kind of stuff is like on the slide deck and stuff like that. But it's always like all those conversations you hear. It's like, how fast are you growing? Like what are your sales? What's your revenue? What's your revenue per employee? Like all that's like, no one's like, I mean, how many times is NPS going to be like the first thing that they talk about in the conversation on the list topic?
Definitely customer retention is like a kind of a thing that people care about these days. But I guess like the old model was like the sales rep for even like it's like they focus so much on the AE like cold outbound sellers like
Net new was
that was all the cool guys for net new.
Yeah.
No one cared about the customers. It's cool to be a customer seller.
Yes, CS is gonna figure that out later on.
But as the CS.
Even when I was in the AEC, like that was the pressure. It's like say what you need to say to get the deal closed. Let's get them on something, and then land and expand from there. Where I think the issue is because I think most CS orgs are built with service in mind, right? It's inherent to CS retention. But I think maybe where the gap is that handoff from the AE org to the CS org. Okay, boom, like the sales to CS. Sales is just, but it's also interesting though because with sales and especially net new, you're whining and dining and schmoozing, right? You're spending a lot of money doing that. Oftentimes depends on the org, but that's not necessarily a correlation of service, actual service, right? Because I think maybe it's helpful to define service as the working experience, right? What is it like to work with this company? But then also tie in outcomes. Are the outcomes being delivered in a way that's aligned to our business problem? Or do we just get access to a tool and go figure it the fuck out?
It's always interesting to look at these companies. What is their like support CS like headcount versus the total employee headcount is something that's really interesting. Not everyone has like a super high like CS or support ratio to customer count or even like to their overall headcount. And the other thing I think is really interesting is like I've talked to a lot of other, at least for like early to like mid stage, and honestly probably exists at like enterprise companies too. I think a lot of people still have problems with like organizing their data infrastructure, like, which is a really big problem. So like, as things are maybe happening in someone's account, like you want to be able to like proactively act on that, right? Like, the customer is not always going to tell you like, hey, something's broken, I have a problem. Like, how can you figure out a way to kind of like have these signals running in the background and kind of flag those things so that way you can provide proactive support on that. And that's like part of like what like fine dining too, right? It's like anticipating customers' needs and like all that stuff. Like, how can you do that? And I think a lot of companies are also not very well instrumented for that, or at least not instrumented at a high enough level for that
Yeah.
to be able to accomplish that.
No, but Jay, I think you make a good point on being proactive, because I think one thing that's a bit understated right now is we're moving from a seat-based SaaS model to a usage-based AI model, right? And I think that's the usage itself, will correlate with how strong your customer organization is actually benefiting from your tool or your service, right? If they're getting great value out of it, they'll probably use it more. If they're not getting a lot of value with it and they're not interacting that much, then no amount of hospitality can solve for that. No amount of being nice on calls and sending gifts, bottles of champagne can solve the product not actually delivering.
Yeah.
So I think there's two pieces of that.
I do actually, on that seat-based thing, I have like maybe a contrarian belief on this, I guess, is like, I do think companies should still consider like a seat-based pricing
Yeah.
model to some aspects. And the reason that I think about that is like, from overall like business health and like how do you build and grow your business, like usage is really, and I guess you can also change your usage-based pricing, like depending on what your margins are or whatever, and you
Yeah.
can increase the pricing to improve your margins and things like that. But I do think what seat-based can help out with is like, if you still haven't landed in a space where a lot of these like maybe like early stage or mid-sized companies, especially if you're rolling out something new like an AI product or thing like that, what seat-based can also help too is like maybe figure out like what is someone's like willingness to like pay over there, right? Like, can you like give them, like, if it's like 10 people going to be in the product and you're going to charge on you're going to do maybe some usage, or maybe there's like a seat based like component of it, like, okay, cool, like you can't pay like all 10 seats, like let's discount you out, we'll give you 10 seats for the price of 5. Like, those are ways that I think are really important too in this like still usage based world, to figure out what is a customer's willingness to pay, because I think that's also really important too, because if you just go down the full like usage like route, like you might be potentially missing out on some like delta there in terms of like, what are the dollars I can collect from a customer. It's not like you're not trying to like juice like your customer. I mean, maybe a little bit, but like it's a
Yeah.
business at the end of the day. So
Yeah. For me, I think there's two considerations there, is whether you think the era of subsidized token spend will continue for a while, right? Because right now, if you look at an Anthropic and you have people on these $50, $100, $200 amount pro max plans, uh, we have artificial rate limits, right? And then SpaceX, they just did the deal with Anthropic recently, right? Where they're adding a ton of compute. Okay, cool. Now our rate limits have doubled. But what does that actually mean? Double your rate limits when it's unclear. And then they have usage windows. Here's a busy time of day. Here's a non-busy time of day. So that's because I think they're trying to retrofit like a usage-based cost infrastructure to a seat-based pricing model. So that brings me to the second point, is what is your cost infrastructure? So for a lot of these companies that sprung up from 22 until late last year, where it was essentially more of a wrapper company than the model company. If you're a wrapper company, yeah, it makes sense, I think, to charge by seat. It makes sense because you have certain parameters or structure around the model itself. It's someone can go out and vibe code the wrapper themselves, but there's some support involved. There's some hand holding, right? And I think the elephant in the room is that we're sitting here having a highly technical AI conversation that we think is highly technical, but then some AI researcher out of Frontier Labs laughing at this conversation like you guys don't know shit. But then we're sitting here looking at our LinkedIn's, laughing at everyone else like you're barely using an LLM interface, right?
Yeah.
So AI adoption and familiarity is on such a bell curve right now that I think until the dust settles, we're not really going to know what is the best pricing.
That wrapper thing that you talked about is so funny. When people are like, "Oh, you're building like an AI wrapper," I'm like, isn't like software like UI just like a wrapper for like, and and it's not like it's the same. I think it's the same thing. Like software, like sure you can call it a wrapper, but like that's basically like, isn't like Salesforce basically a wrapper for like spreadsheets or something like that. That conversation has always found it to be funny to me. Like what is like truly like a wrapper, like in this sense.
Frontier companies just They release a new update and it just kills entire categories overnight. So I think that's what I define as wrapper, is if Anthropic or OpenAI can ship one new feature set and take out your whole category, you're a wrapper.
I don't know if I fully believe in that, because like I also think that there is like something that people like underrate. I think like in terms of like calling some of these companies wrappers is like one, some of the like, okay, there might be some truly like wrapper products where it's like you're just literally doing like command to like GPT or like OpenAI like API or like
Yeah.
Anthropic API or something
Yeah.
like that. But then some of these other ones that are like they're not fully like wrappers, but like there is some sort of like UI UX like thoughtfulness that's happened where they've also had conversations with customers
Yeah.
and being like thoughtfully like when you're like someone like OpenAI or you're like Anthropic or like Gemini, you're building some of these like concepts for like people like at scale. And what always happens when you build this like very wide net solution is it's not custom to specific like use cases. Like sure it does like a few of these things really well.
Yeah.
But I think some of the advantages of some of these like even like wrapper tools or whatever is they can build out very custom workflows to match user requests that some other people not do. And also we talked about service just a second ago. You also get the benefit of like there's a lot of non-technical folks, like just because we're having this conversation right now and it seems like there's a lot of people having this AI conversation and like SaaS, like I would argue the people having those kinds of conversations are the ones that are in the top like 5,
Yeah.
like 1 to 5%. Most people are not very technical, and a lot of them don't even have an interest in being that technical. And so you're not going to want to just like build it themselves.
I think there's the one other piece is the privacy and security aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right. You got a lot of people, spin up these wrapper tools, or vibe code stuff and try to deploy it. And then at the client, and this is more of kind of a AI consultant archetype, right? And then they try to deploy it at the client organization, and then shit breaks or shit gets leaked, or in a recent case, I think Cursor wiped the code base for a company in 7 seconds or something like that. And
That
then,
wasn't Dell, was it? I just
well, Dell, yeah. Then you got those companies too.
We're in the phase of infinite content right now. What is the type of content that actually breaks through the noise? Because you can spin up content so quickly with AI now.
Yeah, I think it's got to be something that is unique and has a strong point of view, like something that maybe you can fully not only stand behind, but you have maybe some like knowledge and insight that only you can kind of speak to, and you have this experience and you're speaking from that. I think that's like kind of what like separates like the slop from like really good content. But I will say something that I think is interesting is with the ability nowadays to create this kind of like content at scale or whatever you want to call it. I think it very much like brings content into a world very similar to like the ads game where like, you think about like LinkedIn ads or like Facebook ads and stuff like that. Like, and this is like even overblown in like e-commerce and stuff. Like people are launching like, hundreds of ads a month and stuff like that to find out what their winners are, right? I think that's the same thing with content at scale. Like what this enables you to do, like content at scale, is like now you can figure out what your winners are faster. Like before, you had to like make sure like yes, like put together some like extra additional like effort and things like that. But I honestly think you can put out more stuff, figure out which are the winners, and then invest more time on those and kind of like use that to improve those existing pieces of content, whether it's like, if it's something that's written that lives on your website, you can improve that piece and turn it into more of like a hero piece essentially. Or if it's like, video content or something like that, like you can continue to keep workshopping that format and make it like even better, higher production value, etc.
It's interesting because we're a video production company, and I think our offerings have changed over the years, right? And our hot sellers have changed as a result of the massive influx of noise in the content space. So one example of that, when we first started out, there was a lot of high viral potential organic content. We were doing a lot of street interviews, music videos, parodies, skits, stuff designed to get attention. Now, as competition for that has increased, especially in B2B, right? Around 2019 through 21, 22, you did anything kind of creative, you're going to stand out and the content would perform well. Now that's no longer guaranteed. And I think the pivot is to be more strategic with where you're putting the spend. So for a lot of our clientele, the content that they're buying, that they're investing in right now, is moved from that super top of funnel, let's just get eyeballs everywhere, to more mid funnel and bottom funnel content. And namely, it's event-based content, testimonial content, getting customers in front of on the camera. Because I think that's one thing. You can have all of the best AI in the world. You can't fake someone that's paying you money saying good things about what that's like.
Oh, 100%. It doesn't, I think it matters much less about like everyone, like, I feel like there's still a lot of people that are like, oh, the views that you're getting. I think as long as your customers or the people that you want to be customers are watching
Getting
your
engaged.
content,
Yeah.
like you're good to go. Like
That's-
you hit your goals.
Yeah, going back to the question, it's like, yeah, creating content for your customers, and like that's basically what Dean was saying, was like, it's so much more harder to go viral on LinkedIn, but it's because the good old days of like organic on LinkedIn are definitely going down. But as long as you're creating the right content for your customers and they're getting the content in front of their customers, that's the most important thing. You're basically creating content. B2B businesses are basically creating content for their prospective customers or their current customers. That's kind of how people are thinking about it, versus like trying to cast this wide net.
Yeah. I mean, you don't need to go viral to like do well on content. Like
the
that's
thing.
crazy
Yeah,
to me
that's
that
the
people are
biggest
like,
misconceptions. Oh, we gotta
people
go
like,
viral.
oh, I got like 20,000 likes on this video, and then like, okay, cool. How many customers did that help you like get? Like, there are plenty of situations where like someone gets like maybe like 1,000 views on a video, or even less than that, and they outperform from like a like return, like I guess like compared to the number of views that they got more money from that 1,000 view or less than 1,000 view video than someone that got like, I don't know, like 50,000 views or even 100,000 views.
And that's why we're seeing so many more people make content, because people are still seeing results with small amount of views, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best video is you're already in an active sales cycle, and you could send a quick video explaining something, adding value in some way. And that's where there's the distribution trap as well, right? And I think because most people think of distribution as only organic and paid, uh, there's sometimes your most impactful distribution is one of your reps sending over an asset.
I think that's why like in this era it makes even more sense to like quadruple down on your content production and produce more content too, because now we can all like store this information, like store this data, and then search across it using like a Claude or something else, like basically like building like a vector store for all these like clips, content you've created. And now you could say like, hey, find me like 3 customer, like as long as you have the right metadata attached to it, like find me 3 clips for fintech customers or something like that.
Yep.
Now you've produced so much, like you have a bunch of different options, and then you can use that to also find your winners faster, right? Like even though you're recording all these videos, like yeah, obviously you're gonna send it to your customer and things like that. But if you're using it for like testing, all those things, like I'd be like, okay, cool, I got all these. These are the top 3 performing customer clips, and now I found those, and I can like use those, and those are going to be the ones that I include in other stuff.
If you're at a market, let's say you're a solo marketer or a smaller marketing team, what should you be focusing on right now when it comes to content?
Ooh, I would say really thinking about how you can set up systems around your content production. That's going to be like the baseline. I think honestly in this AI like world, I think there's going to be 2 things that are going to help propel you into the next level. Like, and this isn't just like fully focused on content as well, but like speaking to content as well. One is making sure your data is organized or working with AI to organize it. There's a lot of ways that you can do that now with all these MCPs. You can work with AI to organize your data to make it work for you a little bit better. And the second thing is like these unique things, knowledge that you've learned like across the way. Like how can you build up like all that knowledge, like try things, test things out. I think those are going to be like the biggest things that can help impact you from a content perspective. Being organized, definitely number one thing. I think like the more systems and skills you can kind of build around, Like if you're not thinking about like, I'm not gonna say that if you're not thinking about it, but if you aren't, if you haven't been thinking about this or you don't know about this, I would encourage everyone to go research Claude skills, learn how to build some skills like that. And then if you don't really know what to do and what systems or things to like set up and organize as well, one prompt that I really like in Claude is like if you are using Claude or whatever you're using, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, go and ask like because all these things are like storing as long as you have like your memory turned on and stuff like that. What are the things that I've been consistently asking you over the past month that I can turn into like a skill that I can like automate? Number one prompt that you should be asking at the very
What is EventShark doing with AI?
outside of making those awesome shark picks that you're doing.
Flip the shark. Show the clip. Pics right here. Flip the shark.
Yeah, I'll caveat this with we are actively using Claude right now, but I think the mindset to have with any AI builds is try to make it model agnostic, right? Because really skills are just markdown files, and they're organized in plain text. Because most of the models, every model understands plain text, and that's been an interesting shift in terms of when you really break down the term vibe coding. At the early onset, vibe coding was taking natural language and turn that into code scripts that run, by themselves, and you have like a standalone app. But now a lot more vibe coding has AI and has models in the loop. So if you have models at different parts of a workflow, let's say an agentic workflow, you can have a lot of the guardrails and the structure of the harness, right, in plain text in natural language, and you can swap out the models. So one thing that we're building towards is there's a lot of great open source models out there right now. Open source models, the performance benchmarks typically lag about 6 months behind frontier models, but they're perpetual and free, right? That was the big hype around OpenClaw when it first came out. Was instead of paying Anthropic's for API calls, you could build something and then put like, let's say a Google Gemma or like a Meta Llama, although I think that might be deprecated. Anyways, you take we're a lot of the Chinese open source models, right? And you could replace like at the LLM level within the workflow, you could swap the models out, and it pretty much does the same thing over time. So what are we building at EventShark? Well, we have an AI transformation roadmap. We're eating the dog food in terms of turning this into a services company. But that's where the delivery mechanism and the operations has a ton of software and a ton of AI in the loop. You'd be surprised because my brand is the sales rapper and my job is sales and marketing for the most part. Most of the AI that we've been building has been for our operations side, and for the editing team, for shoot organization, logistics. Making sure that things don't get forgotten, a layer of checks and balances around the company.
Jay, what's the best way of using AI day to day?
Oh, what's the best way I'm using AI in my day to day? Honestly, like to help me design workflows for myself, just repeatable workflows. Like, how can I take some of these things that maybe I'm doing like ad hoc and put together like a system or process around it, or re-architect some of these.
Example.
Ooh, a good example. Well, we run part of what I'm responsible for is our starter or free plan at Navattic. So I am managing that product to get more people to self-upgrade or kind of like produce the signals that would align with them upgrading, that we can flag the sales team to get them maybe on a call and eventually upgrade as well. So we're running experiments over there, reporting on those experiments, making sure everything is tracked properly. We have the right updates that we set up. Those are, it used to be like very painful, like a lot of different like tab switching and things that I'd go through. That would be super frustrating. So I built a lot of skills around that on updating these experiments to have the reporting automatically done, like updated every week. So we know like, hey, what's the progress of this experiment? Should we kill this experiment? Should we improve it? Like, is it scaled? Like, what is the outcome over there? Reporting on those failed experiments as well, like being able to have the documentation there, I think is really important. I think, in the previous tech world that we lived in, there was a lot of opportunity for forgotten context. Someone leaves their job, And
Document everything. Yeah.
and nobody, everyone's always talking about, document everything, but that was so hard. Like, that was really hard to do. Like, spend all my time freaking documenting my job instead of getting my job done.
So I think there's a big blind spot when people talk about document everything, because and I think the AI building, like AI brain or company context, right, that's the part that's missing. Sure, you can document, you can have a million SOP files living in your Google Drive or your Notion or what have you. Uh, is that actually useful if it doesn't get surfaced automatically at the right times? Or there's some kind of control layer on when something that's documented is actually useful? Or if something is documented 3 years ago, is there a checks and balances to say this is outdated? So, and that's where I think for our operations, like building that internal context engine has been really helpful. Like, what do you use the hosts for Navattic? Like where all the skills and like persistent memory across accounts. Like, do you have anything in place for that?
So we use I built out a lot of Claude skills, and
Yeah.
you can now share those if you have like a team plan for
Yeah.
Claude. You can share those across your organization. Obviously, they are just markdown files, so you can download them.
Is most of the team using like just vanilla Claude chat or co-work code? Like, what does that look like?
I think most of the people will probably just use chat. I used to actually use Cowork a little bit. And the reason I used to use Cowork a little bit more was because but this has been changed recently by Anthropic. Before, I think chat was like single step task kind of like execution, even if you like connected a bunch of MCPs or whatever. So it would do like each thing one by one, and Cowork would actually run them in parallel for you.
Yeah.
But now I think they moved that to chat. Like, I've seen now when I do chat, it'll say like, okay, I'm running these things in parallel now. So I was doing them together. So I think they're like moving towards doing that. I actually honestly think for most people, like, chat's like the one that you should use. I don't think people really use Cowork that often. I mean, you get like access to local files
I
there.
think that's
a
the
little
thing.
bit
Is,
more.
like, resilient memory is helpful for cowork. So like, so for my main build, I've been like the Mac Mini over there. I've been doing everything in a cowork folder just because it keeps all my local files there. But what I've done a step beyond that. That's helpful for me, right? But if let's say I wanted Jake to have the same repository of memory and context that I've been using for my cowork folder, he's not going to be able to do that. Or even if I copied and pasted the folder to him, that's outdated within a week. So like the big thing I've been working on the past 2 weeks, and it's like basically in a semi ships format now, is I have a 2-layer system for maintaining context across user accounts. Now, if you use the enterprise plan and Anthropic, they have some layer of that built in, but it's murky, right? It's not, you don't have as much fine-tuned control over that. So what I've done is I've set up a GitHub as the main EventShark brain. And within the file structures, there's a little bit better organization versus just a bunch of files locally on my computer. And I'm having the AI model actually help me do some of the organization. So from that GitHub, what I've been able to do is create a custom MCP where I don't even know how I built it. I was in terminal doing a lot of random stuff for homebrew and
Let it rip.
and some Python, which I never thought.
Ding's hitting allow access to
I'm just
everything.
going boom, 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 boom. Yeah, but it's because that's low stakes, right? That's mostly internal stuff. There's never any client data in. But building this MCP, what that's allowed me to do is now everyone could just add that into their chat without having to set up their own cowork, but they still have access to all of my context and memory and skill files that I'm doing a more daily poll in the morning where everyone has a scheduled task where they're pulling in the additional context from overnight into their local folder, and then a nightly push, which is I think I'm indexing their 10 most recent chats, looking for a diff, like any difference between what's in existing memory, and then uploading the changes to everything.
So now you're doing that with like their chat data, or are you talking about like using that for updating like local files and
With
things
their
like
chat data. So everything gets in parallel every day. It's the GitHub is updated, and then local files are updated as well. And then on a single use basis, they can use the MCP to access the GitHub at any time as well.
Oh, nice. That's pretty smart. I have to check that out.
Rapid fire. Here we go. One prediction for B2B marketing in the next 12 months. Jay.
Ooh. I think we see the pendulum maybe shift back a little bit on people trying to just build their own in-house solutions for everything using AI.
So you think there'll be more or less?
I think there will be less. Like, I think people will
Interesting.
slightly maybe consider going back to buying solutions versus building solutions. And the reason why I think that is because all these people are like building all these things. No one's really thinking about like who's gonna maintain this. Like who's gonna do the maintenance of this? Okay, you cool. You built this awesome product. Then you hooked up all these APIs. What happens when the API endpoints change? Or what happens when Ding, who's my smartest AI guy, gets a job offer that's 2 times his salary and is like, peace out, I'll see you later. And the guy behind him has no idea what to do, right? Like, yeah, you can maybe untangle some of that with your choice of AI tool, but like I do think there is gonna be a benefit of buying. And also you're missing out when you build, you're missing out on all the shared insights at scale, right? So like I think about like even our product like at Navattic. This is maybe less rapid fire, but I think about Navattic. There's we have a ton of customers, right? So we get tons and tons of feedback from all these different customers, and we've used that to improve the product. And all these other software companies are doing the same. When you build something yourself, you're only getting the feedback from one person.
Not the death of AI, or not the death of software. Jay's calling it.
Not the death of software. Yeah.
All right, we just had some technical difficulties I'm using, this is not even the mic, this mic's not even working. We had some technical difficulties at the office, but the podcast episode was recovered. We thought we lost the podcast, but we're back. We saved it. So if you're listening, if you made it this far in the podcast, thank you so much. Sorry we got cut off short. If you got any value, please like and subscribe. Check out the B2B Content Show. And yeah, appreciate you. We'll see you in the next episode.
You judge who I am. Seen a lot of people getting laid off. Funny how the HR posts still talk about fam. I don't want a coffee or meet you for lunch, and I definitely don't want to buy what you spam.